Have you ever paused for a moment and asked yourself, what does intimacy look like when we grow older? What if I told you that a simple, often misunderstood act of self care could completely transform the way we experience aging? Not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually too. In today's video, we're about to shine a light on something often hidden in silence, even shame, masturbation, and how it plays a surprisingly powerful role in the well being of older adults. This is more than just a conversation about pleasure. It's a profound exploration into how reconnecting with your own body can bring you joy, comfort, and control no matter your age. So if you're curious, open-minded, or even just quietly wondering in the back of your mind whether there's something more to this story, stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you won't just walk away with new knowledge. You might walk away feeling a little more empowered, more confident, and more at home in your own skin than ever before. But before we dive in, do me a favor, if you're passionate about breaking down age-old taboos and embracing the fullness of life, at every stage hit that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode in this series on aging well and living fully. And just for fun, if you enjoy this topic and want more, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, feel free to comment 0, your feedback matters. Now let's begin. As we transition through the stages of life, especially into the golden years, we're often told explicitly or implicitly that certain experiences are no longer for us. Sexuality, passion, touch. These are frequently portrayed as privileges of youth. But is that really true? Or have we simply allowed outdated beliefs to dull the richness of this stage of life? Masturbation, self-pleasure, is one of those topics that lives in the shadows, rarely discussed when it comes to senior health. It's misunderstood, underappreciated, and often dismissed as something irrelevant or even inappropriate for older adults. Yet when we truly take a closer look, we begin to see just how essential it can be. In fact, this natural act holds deep meaning. It can become a beautiful healing form of self-expression and care for individuals navigating the complex physical and emotional terrain of later life. And no, this isn't just about desire, it's about connection, autonomy, confidence, comfort. As our bodies change, so do our needs. Our emotional landscapes deepen. Masturbation can evolve from a simple outlet of pleasure into a personal ritual, a way to reconnect with oneself in a world that often stops seeing you. Let's address the elephant in the room. There's a lingering myth that sexuality disappears as we age, that older adults somehow lose the desire or the right to experience physical pleasure. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Sexuality doesn't have an expiration date. The need for intimacy, for connection, for self-love, these are lifelong needs. They shift, they change, but they do not vanish. In fact, for many, the older years bring a unique freedom. No longer bound by societal expectations around performance or external approval, masturbation becomes a personal sanctuary, an experience rooted in self-awareness, tenderness, and acceptance. Where once it might have been tangled in feelings of guilt or societal judgment, now it can emerge as a celebration of life itself. Imagine that a space where your body becomes your own again, where pleasure is not a performance, but a conversation between you and yourself. Let's go deeper. The benefits of masturbation for older adults extend far beyond the bedroom. Regular self-pleasure has been shown to promote healthy blood circulation, particularly in the genital region, which can help maintain sexual function and overall physical vitality. But the impact doesn't stop there. Masturbation also encourages the release of endorphins, those magical brain chemicals that improve mood, reduce stress, and ease feelings of depression and loneliness. These are common emotional hurdles in later life, especially for those who've experienced loss, isolation, or changes in their physical independence. For some, masturbation is a form of relaxation, a way to wind down, to ease the mind after a stressful day. For others, it's a tool for reclaiming personal power. In a stage of life where so many things from health to mobility may feel out of your control, self-pleasure offers a space where you call the shots. You decide what feels good, when it feels right, and how to express it. Yes, our bodies change. Hormonal fluctuations such as decreasing levels of testosterone or estrogen can alter sexual drive. Some individuals may experience lower arousal or desire, and that's entirely natural. But it doesn't mean the capacity for pleasure disappears. Far from it. In fact, these years may offer a chance to explore new sensations and develop a different relationship with your body, one that is gentler, more intuitive, more emotionally fulfilling. Without the pressures of performance or external validation, self pleasure becomes an act of nourishment. It's no longer about reaching a goal or meeting an expectation. It's about listening to your body, understanding your rhythms, and embracing the experience of sensation for its own sake. Think of it like this: in youth, we may seek fireworks. But in maturity, we learn to appreciate candlelight, the quiet, glowing intimacy that asks for presence, not perfection. One of the most transformative aspects of masturbation in older age is how it supports personal autonomy. In our younger years, sexual experiences often come with performance-based pressures: how often, how well, how desirable we are to others. But as we age, these burdens tend to fade. Masturbation allows older adults to focus entirely on themselves, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. It creates a judgment-free zone where one's desires, fantasies, and pleasures are allowed to exist without apology. In this space, sexuality becomes less about pleasing others and more about honoring oneself. It's a quiet revolution, a reclaiming of your body, your time, and your sensuality. Self-pleasure is also a deeply emotional act. It's a way to nurture self-acceptance, to explore feelings, and even to process emotional pain. For those who've lost a partner, who live alone, or who are navigating the shifting sands of identity that come with aging, masturbation can be a source of comfort, familiarity, and joy. And more than that, it can help keep the emotional self alive. The gentle caress of your own hand can remind you that your body is still yours, that you still matter, and that you still deserve to feel good. In our previous section, we uncovered how self-pleasure in older age is not only a source of physical relief, but also a deeply emotional sanctuary, one that reconnects us with our bodies and affirms our self-worth. Now let's take that understanding further and explore the often overlooked ways in which this simple act contributes to overall health, autonomy, and inner peace. Have you ever noticed how your body melts into rest after a moment of intimacy with yourself? It's not just your imagination, there's science behind it. During sexual arousal and climax, the body releases a cascade of calming hormones like oxytocin and prolactin that help relax the nervous system. This biochemical symphony sets the stage for deeper, more restorative sleep, something that becomes increasingly precious with age. Good sleep isn't just a comfort, it's a necessity. As we grow older, restorative rest plays a critical role in how well we heal, manage stress, and sustain energy throughout the day. For many seniors who struggle with fragmented or restless nights, self-pleasure may be an overlooked but accessible path to better sleep and emotional balance. But sleep is only one part of the story. Another vital benefit lies in the way masturbation helps prevent tissue atrophy, a natural concern, as the body undergoes age-related changes. With time, circulation can slow down, and tissues, especially in the genital area, may lose some of their elasticity and responsiveness. Engaging in regular self-stimulation encourages blood flow, helping tissues remain supple, oxygenated, and responsive. This in turn maintains not only physical health, but also enhances sensitivity and pleasure, allowing older adults to continue experiencing joy in their bodies without discomfort or disconnection. Unfortunately, this essential aspect of well-being is rarely acknowledged in mainstream discussions about aging. We talk about diet, medication, and mobility, but why do we leave pleasure and intimacy out of the wellness equation when they are just as fundamental? If you've stayed with me this far and are finding this conversation valuable, let me know by dropping a number 1 in the comments below. Your support means everything. It tells me you're listening, learning, and maybe even healing through these words. And that matters. Now let's move from the physical body to the emotional heart. Masturbation isn't only about arousal. It's about releasing pressure, dissolving tension, and creating space for emotional clarity. When we engage in self-pleasure, the brain releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that boost mood, calm the mind, and foster a sense of happiness. It's like a gentle wave of relief washing over the spirit. For older adults, especially those grappling with grief, loneliness, anxiety, or a loss of identity that sometimes follows retirement or widowhood, this emotional lift can be profound. Self-pleasure becomes a personal ritual, a moment of solace, a way to meet oneself with kindness, when the world feels overwhelming or distant. It's in these moments alone, but not lonely, that many rediscover a sense of peace. They begin to soften into acceptance, into presence. They find joy not in the rush of youth, but in the stillness of being fully at home in their aging bodies. Another powerful dimension of this topic lies in autonomy. As people age, they often find themselves confronting unwelcome changes, limited mobility, declining health, the need for assistance with everyday tasks. It can feel like control is slipping away one decision at a time. And yet, amid these changes, one act remains profoundly personal and fully in your hands: masturbation. It becomes more than a physical release. It becomes a statement of ownership, a reminder that no matter what life takes away, this body is still yours. This connection is still yours. There's something deeply empowering about this. Even when the world treats aging as a slow retreat, this private moment says, I am still here. I am still whole. And this simple yet bold act can restore a sense of self-confidence that might otherwise fade with age. It affirms identity, sensuality, and personal agency, all of which are just as important in our 70s as they were in our 20s. Sadly, much of society still clings to outdated notions about pleasure and age. There's an unspoken belief that desire should retire when you do, that intimacy belongs only to the young. This mindset doesn't just rob older adults of joy, it plants seeds of shame, guilt, and silence. But here's the truth: sexual pleasure doesn't have an expiration date. What it has is evolution. And when we normalize self-pleasure as a healthy, respectful, and beautiful part of aging, we allow people to explore their bodies and desires without fear of judgment. There's a quiet power in this shift. It lets older individuals reclaim the language of touch, desire, and self-love in a way that feels safe, dignified, and affirming. And there is something profoundly human about that, something resilient. To seek joy and connection even with oneself amid the complexity of aging is to embody the enduring spirit of life itself. If we look closely, we realize that masturbation is not just a physical act, it's a form of self-care. It's a moment to listen to the body, to celebrate its resilience, and to honor the pleasure it still holds. To touch oneself with love and presence, especially in later years, is to acknowledge everything the body has carried, survived, and become. It's a gesture of gratitude, not shame. And ultimately, the choice to engage in self-pleasure is a deeply personal one. There is no right or wrong here, only what feels true to you. But by creating safe, open spaces to talk about it, we empower older adults to make these decisions without embarrassment, without apology. We help them reclaim their right to joy, to softness, to intimacy. Because pleasure doesn't fade, it matures, it deepens. And when we allow it space in our aging lives, it can be a powerful source of healing, comfort, and light. Previously, we explored how masturbation empowers older adults to reclaim intimacy, preserve bodily autonomy, and nurture emotional well-being. But as we continue this journey, we must also acknowledge the nuance, the balance between self-pleasure as liberation and the risk of it becoming emotional escape. Many older individuals grapple with a quiet but profound struggle, the sense of losing control over their own bodies. Whether due to illness, declining mobility, or even the weight of society's perceptions, where aging is too often equated with decline, this sense of helplessness can erode confidence and self-esteem. But within this internal conflict lies a gentle, personal act that can shift the tide: masturbation. It offers something that no medication, no physical aid, no well-meaning advice can replace: the ability to reconnect with one's body in an intimate, private, and empowering way. For many seniors, their bodies have become a source of frustration, aching joints, unfamiliar limitations, and the constant reminders of youth slipping further away. But through self-pleasure, a subtle transformation can occur. The body, once seen only as a vessel of pain or weakness, can once again become a source of pleasure, of warmth, of comfort. It's a reclamation, a rediscovery, an act that whispers, you are still here, you are still whole. When we zoom out, we realize masturbation is more than a private ritual. It is a celebration of the enduring human spirit, a celebration of the body's lifelong ability to experience joy no matter its age. In embracing self-pleasure as part of a rich and meaningful life, we are not just honoring the act, we are honoring the person, Their experiences, their desires, their ever-evolving path to joy. And in doing so, something extraordinary happens. Self-worth blossoms. Confidence grows. The mirror no longer reflects only the signs of age, it reflects a person who knows themselves, loves themselves, and dares to embrace pleasure as their birthright. So when we talk about aging, why not talk about it this way? Why not frame it as a chapter, not of fading light, but of quiet fire? A fire that still burns with dignity, wisdom, and sensuality. Aging has long been misunderstood, painted as a period where autonomy is lost and pleasure becomes a memory. But that narrative is neither universal nor absolute. Masturbation, simple as it may seem, serves as a powerful counter-narrative. It reminds us that bodily autonomy does not vanish with age, it simply changes shape. And every person, regardless of their years, deserves to feel joy, to experience connection, and to own their body with confidence and care. Of course, like all forms of comfort and pleasure, moderation is key. While masturbation offers a wealth of physical and emotional benefits, it can pose challenges when it becomes excessive, especially in later life. When practiced too frequently or compulsively, it may lead to unintended consequences. Overstimulation of the genital nerves, for example, can result in temporary hypersensitivity. This condition, though not permanent, can make it difficult to achieve the same sensations over time, often causing frustration or anxiety. Individuals may find themselves chasing greater intensity to reach the same satisfaction, setting up a cycle that detracts from, rather than enhances their emotional well-being. These physical concerns are valid, but the true impact of excessive self-stimulation often extends beyond the body. For some elderly individuals, especially those facing loneliness or social isolation, masturbation can gradually shift from an act of self-care into a form of emotional escape. When days feel long and silent, when family visits are rare, or when the loss of a partner leaves an aching void, self-pleasure may become the only accessible source of comfort. It offers a quick release, a moment of control, a brief return to something familiar. But when it becomes the sole source of emotional relief, the risks deepen. Instead of helping individuals connect with themselves and the world around them, excessive reliance on masturbation can lead to emotional withdrawal. Over time, this may hinder one's willingness to seek companionship support or affection from others. It's a quiet, creeping detachment, one that can deepen the very feelings of loneliness that self-pleasure was meant to ease. Let us not forget the desire for connection. Physical, emotional, and social does not dim with age. It remains as vibrant, as vital as it ever was. Masturbation can and should serve as a meaningful way to maintain a relationship with one's own body and emotions. But it cannot and should not replace the deep sustaining power of human connection. We are, after all, social beings. No matter how many birthdays we've celebrated, we still thrive in the presence of love, companionship, laughter, and touch. That's why it's so important to view masturbation not as the center of emotional fulfillment, but as one piece in a broader mosaic of self-care and connection, a healthy addition, not a replacement. From my perspective, a masturbation in older age is a valuable life-affirming tool. It fosters healing, emotional clarity, and a positive relationship with the body. It gives older adults the freedom to explore intimacy and pleasure on their own terms, in a space that feels safe, private, and unhurried. But the key to unlocking its full potential lies in balance. Self-pleasure should be complemented by efforts to sustain emotional health, nurture friendships, and maintain physical activity. When part of a larger wellness routine, one that includes social interaction, movement, mindfulness, and self-compassion, masturbation becomes more than a solitary act. It becomes a powerful part of thriving in later life. If you're still here and still finding value in this conversation, I'd love to know, please drop a number 2 in the comments below. Your presence makes this dialogue feel alive and shared. Medical research supports this approach. Studies consistently show that moderate mindful masturbation in older age is not harmful. In fact, it often leads to improved physical and emotional well-being. However, like any habit, it can become problematic when done to excess. Clinically, the act itself isn't damaging, but its compulsive expression may lead to fatigue, emotional numbness, or isolation, particularly troubling for seniors whose energy reserves are more limited and whose need for social connection remains high. Overstimulation may lead to mental or physical exhaustion, reducing the energy available for other essential activities such as walking, strength building, or simply enjoying a meal with family. These are not luxuries. They are the foundations of vibrant aging. As we grow older, our energy becomes more precious. Every decision we make, how we move, eat, rest, or engage with our surroundings, has a greater impact on our overall vitality. That's why it's so important to maintain a balanced approach to pleasure and self-care. If masturbation is practiced in excess during these later years, it may slowly begin to sap the motivation needed to engage in essential activities, things like walking, exercising, stretching, or even socializing. Without these activities, the risk of physical decline increases, compounding the natural challenges of aging. Imagine a scale. On one side sits personal pleasure. On the other, the need for movement, interaction, and connection. The goal isn't to remove the pleasure, but to make sure it doesn't tip the balance. When both sides are in harmony, the body and spirit are better equipped to thrive. Research has also shed light on another sensitive but important issue: the interpersonal effects of excessive masturbation, particularly in older adults who are in romantic partnerships. While many seniors live independently and may turn to masturbation as a natural way to meet their sexual needs, those in committed relationships face a more delicate balance. For couples navigating the later years together, frequent or compulsive masturbation can sometimes disrupt the emotional and physical intimacy shared between partners. Instead of seeking closeness with one another, one or both individuals may begin to withdraw into private experiences, unintentionally creating emotional distance. This can be deeply hurtful when physical affection and emotional openness start to fade. The bond between partners weakens. What was once a source of comfort and connection becomes strained and harder to repair. That's why maintaining mutual understanding is so vital. Masturbation can absolutely be a part of a healthy personal routine, but it should never replace the affection, trust, and physical closeness that couples strive to build and protect, especially during life's later chapters. In older age, where touch, tenderness, and companionship take on even greater significance, preserving that shared intimacy becomes a cornerstone of well-being. For some individuals, especially those who grew up in conservative or deeply religious households, self-pleasure can stir up conflicting emotions. Even when it feels physically gratifying, it may be accompanied by guilt, shame, or a lingering sense of doing something wrong. In my experience, many elderly people describe this internal battle. They find joy in the act, but also feel uneasy about it. Cultural taboos or religious teachings that frame masturbation as sinful can be deeply ingrained, even after decades have passed. This emotional conflict can be exhausting. It often leads to anxiety, lower self-esteem, or even depression, especially when the act, instead of feeling natural and empowering, begins to feel like a moral dilemma. But here's what needs to be said clearly and without apology: sexuality is a natural part of being human, regardless of age. There is no shame in seeking pleasure, no guilt in touching one's own body. Whether alone or with a partner, our capacity to feel, to connect, and to experience joy is something to be honored, not hidden. Still, there's another subtle danger that comes with unchecked habits. Masturbation, when used not just for pleasure, but to escape uncomfortable emotions, grief, loneliness, fear, can become a wall between an individual and the world. In these cases, the act offers a brief sense of comfort, but it can also reinforce emotional avoidance. The more a person turns inward for relief, the more difficult it becomes to turn outward toward relationships, vulnerability, or healing. Older individuals may slowly begin to withdraw from their social circles. They stop calling friends, avoid community gatherings, or lose interest in meaningful companionship. What began as a moment of soothing becomes a routine of silence. And in this silence, the heart grows heavier. When masturbation becomes a coping mechanism for emotional pain, it's important to seek balance, not through judgment, but through compassion. Therapy, counseling, or simply speaking with someone trustworthy can make a world of difference. These conversations can unravel the shame tied to self-pleasure, helping individuals build healthier, more accepting views of their sexuality. It also creates space to explore other sources of connection, be it friendship, romantic partnership, or family bonds. Talking about it doesn't weaken us. It strengthens us. It lifts the burden, opens new doors, and allows older adults to integrate sexuality into their identity without fear. Of course, no conversation about masturbation in old age would be complete without confronting the myths that continue to surround it. One of the most persistent misconceptions is that masturbation causes long-term physical harm or accelerates the aging process. Let's be clear, medical research does not support this claim. There is no credible evidence that self-pleasure damages sexual organs, leads to serious dysfunction, or speeds up the body's natural decline. In fact, studies have found quite the opposite. Take prostate health, for example, a major concern for many older men. While some outdated claims suggest frequent ejaculation is harmful, newer research indicates it might actually be beneficial. Regular ejaculation, whether through intercourse or masturbation, may help clear out harmful substances and reduce the risk of prostate issues. Another common myth is that masturbation causes permanent sexual dysfunction. While overindulgence that can lead to temporary hypersensitivity or discomfort, especially if the nerves are overstimulated, this is not the same as long-term damage. In nearly all cases, these sensations resolve with rest and moderation. Let's be clear, while excessive masturbation may bring about temporary discomfort, it rarely leads to permanent harm. The human body is an astonishingly resilient system. When given proper time to rest, tissues recover, sensitivity returns, and balance is restored. That said, it's important to recognize when the signs of overindulgence begin to surface. For example, overstimulation of the genital nerves may cause temporary hypersensitivity, making it harder to achieve the same sensations of pleasure. What once felt soothing can start to feel dull or even draining. This shift can lead to frustration, where individuals feel they must increase the intensity of stimulation just to feel satisfied. But here's the truth: when the body starts asking for more and more, to feel less, that's often a signal not of something broken, but of something out of alignment. In these moments, the healthiest response isn't more stimulation, but a gentle pause, a moment of reflection. If you've made it this far in the video, and these insights continue to resonate with you, please comment number 3 below. It's your way of letting me know you're still with me and that you're taking this journey seriously. Thank you for your precious time. When practiced in moderation, masturbation can be an incredibly beneficial habit, especially for older adults. Physically, it helps to maintain healthy blood flow and preserve the elasticity of genital tissues, two factors that tend to decline as we age. Regular stimulation keeps the tissues active and responsive, helping prevent atrophy. It supports sexual function and encourages individuals to remain physically connected with their bodies. This isn't about chasing youthful performance, it's about staying engaged, present, and in tune with your evolving physical self. From an emotional perspective, the benefits are equally profound. Masturbation offers a safe, private outlet for releasing stress, anxiety, and tension. It creates a moment of calm, a space where you don't need permission, validation, or performance. You simply are, and that's enough. The release of endorphins, those natural mood-boosting chemicals, enhances this experience. These biochemical shifts can lift the spirit, ease the weight of loneliness, and create a greater sense of peace. Especially during moments of grief or personal challenge, self-pleasure becomes a comforting ritual, a gentle reminder that joy is still possible even in solitude. But as with any self-soothing habit, balance is essential. Masturbation should be a meaningful part of your well-being, not the whole of it. If it begins to replace your desire to connect with others, to move your body, or to pursue activities that bring you joy and purpose, it may be time to reflect. Why is this becoming your only outlet? What emotions might be hiding beneath the surface when masturbation starts to overshadow other areas of life? It can reduce motivation, dull emotional sensitivity, and contribute to social withdrawal. That's why it's crucial to check in with yourself regularly, not with judgment, but with curiosity, and ask, am I feeling nourished by this, or am I avoiding something deeper? For those who feel caught in that cycle, there are powerful alternatives that can restore balance and vitality. Reaching out to friends, joining a community group, or even having a heartfelt conversation with a trusted family member can reawaken emotional connections. These are the moments that remind us we are still loved, still valued, and still capable of sharing our story. Likewise, engaging in gentle physical activities like walking, swimming, yoga, or simple stretching helps reset the body's energy and lifts the mood. Meditation or mindful breathing can soothe anxiety and reconnect you to your inner calm. These practices, when combined with mindful self-pleasure, create a well-rounded approach to aging with grace. You don't have to give anything up, you just have to give everything its proper place. As we reach the end of this deeply personal and important conversation, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've explored. Masturbation in older age is not something to be hidden or hushed. When practiced with intention and moderation, it can offer tangible, physical benefits, emotional relief, and even moments of spiritual connection. It reminds us that our bodies are still ours to enjoy, still capable of responding, still deserving of tenderness. But like all things that bring pleasure, it must be respected. When it becomes too frequent, too consuming, or too isolating, we risk losing more than we gain. The key lies in finding a harmonious balance, one that nurtures your need for connection, movement, rest, and yes, pleasure. So what did you take away from this video? What resonated with your experience? What will you carry forward into your life? Please take a moment to share one insight in the comments below. I'd love to know what touched you, what opened your mind, or even what challenged you to see aging and intimacy in a new light. And if this video brought value to your life, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating open, honest, and empowering content that reaches people who need it most. Thank you for your time, your presence, and your willingness to explore this important topic with compassion and courage.